Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Season 69 is just around the corner, and today we'll see some of the best starting paths to have a good season. It is the most defensive season we've had in a while, and if you want to jump straight ahead to an unlock order, there should be some timestamps down below. But we can start by looking at some tech you can ignore, then starting troops, all followed by an unlock order. So with tech you can ignore, it's just some stuff that may not be that useful early on or sometimes even the whole season. First of that is medkit. Usually it's the weakest gunboat ability. There are just ways around it, and even though it's only 18 keys, it's still putting you 18 keys behind of a bunch of other tech. Next is going to be that minesweeper, and even though we have mines early on, there are some better ways to deal with them. Something like getting troop health to survive more of them, or even art to clear some of them. Problem with minesweeper is you only have one boat, so if there are mines all over the place, you can't do much in that case. We can also ignore that troop boost. It does give heavies and zooks, even warriors, a decent amount of health and damage. But similar with minesweeper, they're just better options. Like you can just get a normal troop health for everyone, or even troop damage for everyone. If anything, I might get that towards the end of the season, but nowhere near the beginning. We also have warriors. There's no shocks early, no critters early, so it'll be really tough to use warriors, especially when you don't have flare. That's all the way until after 5 ER. So just dropping warriors, they're not really going to last long. And we also have Grens to skip. Because they're off path by 24 keys, it's just trying to find some other troops that are an okay option, and we can skip them for now. And some seasons we have a bunch of tech to ignore, but this season, only these 5. All the other options kind of depends on whether you want to go offense or defense. And now we'll take a look at the starting troops. So everyone's going to start with heavies, and it's a decent troop to start, have a good amount of health. There isn't flare, so you can't straight up heavy rush between ERs. And the special part about this season is you have that squad leader. So getting that Zuka fan, one of your 8 boats of heavies, you can make this Zuka fan. Basically a boat of heavies that kind of acts like a Zuka, just a bit more damage and a little extra range. But the main thing about the Zuka fan isn't so much its extra damage, but it has its own squad flare. So you can let your 7 boats of heavies do their thing and send this one guy off on his own, maybe kill one ER by himself, since only he has that flare. Another option is Zooks. They're only 16 keys off path, but as we'll see later, you might have some trouble getting them to survive, because if no troop health, they die in one shot to mines. So if you get Zooks, you might have to go all the way to troop health. And even after that, if there's too many mines and buildings, maybe you need Kavan to keep everyone alive. So going down that dead end, you can see, it is a lot of keys. They're not a bad option by any means, but depending if you want to spend all those keys on that offense. It's not so much what the best offense is, but what's on the main path and what isn't. So if you want to go down this dead end, looks like about 90 keys until Kavan. You can spend those 90 keys on somewhere else part of the tree. But moving on to 3 ER, you have tanks as an option. They're usually okay in defensive metas where you don't have a lot of offense boosts like troop health or troop damage, and if you don't have too many abilities. So if you want to go straight to 3 to 4 ER, tanks are an okay pickup. There are medics below them, but they're usually not used in warships. Can really outheal maybe rockets or some splash if there's troop health, but neither in this case. And later as you go into 4 ER, there's rifles right there, and rifle tanks are in good pairing. Rifles being just a better meat shield because they can take more shots from cannons or boom cannons. So this is sort of the alternative to using maybe heavies only or heavy Zooks. One more thing later at 4 ER is that meat shield squad leader. He basically has enough health as a mech, and can even take more shots from defenses, so he might be useful. You can just keep him in mind. But the one thing to know is just you have either those two options, heavy Zooks, maybe Kavan, or going towards that rifle tanks path. And before the unlock order, we can take a quick look at deck layouts. Starting off at 2 ER, you have some space over there, maybe one in the far left, one in the top side. You can remember that we have no flare until 5 ER. So maybe laying out buildings where everyone is kited one way, so forcing people to delay drop or use that Zuka fan with a squad flare. Next we have 3 ER, a little bit worse because the left side opens up, but you have an extra ER with a bit more health. Still might be worth going to 3 just by itself. 4 ER does look better than 3, because again, if anything, you have an extra ER and all of them have a bit more health. And finally we have 5 ER, so I'd say better than 4, but just more space to put defenses and maybe make a dirty compact base. But those are the deck layouts. It's looking like each ER level gets a little better than the rest, at least until 5 ER. And now we can talk about an unlock order. So starting out with the defense path, we said it's a little more of a defensive season, and that's because of a lot of offense later in the tree. There's no flare until 5 ER, shocks and critters are at 6 ER, and even strong troops, so lasers, RCs at 5, HCs and bombers at 6. All of that is way later in the season. But paired with that, you also have a lot of the defense early on. You have 6 major defenses and all 3 kinds of mines at 4 ER. So it just means that if you pile all the defenses early, it's really tough to get through. So honestly, a little tough for no IT. If you can get to 7 ER HQ22, then I would still take the defensive path, because that's the fastest way to HCs and bombers. But if you're maxed out at 6 ER or below, then I would take offense, getting some strong troops like Kavan or lasers early on. In any case, we can start with the order. So defense path can start with mines and head straight to 3 ER. Picking up that multi-node, maybe either 25 mines or 3 snipers. Kinda depends on what you really need. Right now I'm leaning towards 3 snipers, just because it's buildings you have to get through. And I would take the top path here, just rushing straight to 4 ER because there's even better defenses there. So getting flames, tanks, and smoke. At this point, cannons are pretty tempting. They're 5 buildings and can do some good work against tanks and heavies. So I would pick those up. But then I would go towards 4 ER and then getting building damage and shock mines. The big one is boom cannons, because if you're using either heavies or tanks, then of course boom cannons are going to do a lot to them, just like normal cannons. And even after that, getting boom mines for the same purpose. At this point, maybe you can go towards 5 ER. There is some good stuff later we can show. But if you want to go get all defenses, there is that one proto node you can get. Maybe a sky shield if a lot of people rush to art. But even a micro or simo isn't bad either. And you might notice we're skipping a bunch of offense, so no Zooks, no Kavan, not even any troop damage. Because the idea of a defense path is just making the most dirtiest base possible. And that's what we're doing. Getting all the defenses. You don't have to care about your offense, because if other people can't finish you, then it doesn't matter. You can slow roll them with tanks and rifles, and they'll have a hard time clearing you. Most people might want to get offense at this point, because you're still at 4 ER and so many things are close by. But if you want to go defense, I still wouldn't. I'd go straight to 5 ER and keep on moving forward. Because we can take a quick look, that even if you go back for Azukas and Kavan and troop damage at this point, if another defense player goes towards 5 ER, there's a lot more defense you can get, especially those rockets and building health. And there's no shocks at this point. So even if you go back for Kavan and more troop damage, I don't think you can clear a base with max rockets. And even on the flip side, for offense players, there's flare and lasers at 5 ER. So all in all, just better to move ahead instead of going back for some other tech. So if you can get to 7 ER, then I'd for sure go the defense path. It may not be super fun early on, but in the long run, it's just better for getting higher ranks and having a good season. But still, we can show the offense path, and that's rushing to the strongest offensive tech. So in this case, it's going to be art. That's mainly because we have no building health at this point. So you can use art for killing an ER or even buildings grouped together. First few unlocks are the same all the way until smoke, but then it's just a straight line towards art. I'd probably pick up the Sky Shield, trying to defend against other players who also went art, covering an ER that's easy to blow up. And also saving tokens that you can max out art right away. And after this point, maybe go back for cannons. It's right there and it's a big defense. But even with art, you don't have too much offense because maybe you're just running all heavies or tanks. So it could be a good time to go back for the other dead end at 2 ER, at least getting Zooks and troop health. Here we're already at the same unlocks as a defense path, so maybe you can get Kavan next if you need him, but otherwise, like we said before, going towards 5 ER. If you can, I'd skip shock mines, boom mines, and boom cannons, just because if you get them, you're putting yourself more behind those who are rushing towards 5 ER. And we saw even for offense players, having flare and lasers seem like pretty good options going ahead. And if there's one takeaway between these two paths, it's unless you're capped out at 6 ER or before, just go the defense path. It's gonna be way easier and just feel better in the long run. Even though the first few days it may not seem like it, usually defense seasons just play out like that. And if it's your first time trying a defense path, we'll be having an account staying kind of low throughout the season, so if you want you can follow that. But otherwise, good luck this season, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.